Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again. I'm here today with our guest, Kylie Shea Llewellyn. So excited to have you on today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to talk to you about photography, dance, this recent exhibition that you had at Leica Gallery, New York. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited and honored to be here.
Me too. How's your time in New York been so far?
So wonderful. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, but I definitely have a New York heart. So every time, as soon as we land, it's like, okay, let's go.
Home?
We're home.
Let's go.
Let's get it going. Yeah.
And then, was this your first gallery exhibition opening too?
The first, and also the first time printing my work in general. So when we stopped by the store the day before the exhibition, it was the first time seeing my work large, framed, printed in general. So yeah, it was a really, I think I'm even still processing that. So
I was going to say, how did it feel to actually see your work come to life as like a full print? Some people say a photograph isn't real until it's actually material and printed.
Yeah.
What was it like in that moment to actually see it come to life from the start of a concept and these ideas that you had to see it be a real material thing?
I think it actually surprised me that I feel a little bit even more disconnected from it, seeing it in a print so far in a great way. I think I can look at it and it doesn't necessarily register that it's me, which is helping me to not be as critical as I typically tend to be as a, just creative in general. So yeah, I think so far. Also, I think I haven't really, taken the time to really stop and look at all of the images yet. We did like a couple slow run-bys, but I haven't given myself the time or space to really take at least my images all in. I definitely was in awe of Henry and Deanna's work. I was like, oh, that's me. Okay, let's keep going.
Let me move past these and go to see the other ones.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see that it's come to life and you've had this exhibition, but I'd also love to dive into where did this journey with photography start? What was this journey like for you? And now at the end, seeing an exhibition, which I hope is the first of many to come.
Thank you.
Where did you start in the beginning?
Okay, this is a good story.
Okay, let's hear
it. Get comfortable. So I was gifted a little Rebel Canon XSI in 2008. And that's kind of where this really started. I always loved, photography growing up in little point and shoots and disposable cameras. And my mother also actually studied photography. And it was when I got that camera in 2008 that I think really found a new love and appreciation for the art form. And I read every manual, every article, every book, everything that I could, and was really just self-taught. Had no formal training or education, but was so hungry to learn. And also the editing and everything that goes with it. So yeah, I think for a couple of years, it was really exciting and horrible Photoshop.
Yeah.
Horrible Photoshop.
You have to go through it, put in the reps.
Wow. Like someday I'll share some of those original images that I look back now, and it's quite alarming. But fun to just see the progression. But yeah, that's when it started. And yeah, I was just so excited to learn something new and dive into a new art form. And then from there, it turned into a headshot and kind of photography. Yeah, headshot portrait business, and also working with artists, trying to offer friends that I knew, and also as a side hustle to support me while I was dancing professionally, because professional dancers typically don't make quite the living that you need to just be doing that. So yeah, it also turned into a business, and I was working in Seattle and also in LA, kind of using that to supplement and support myself. So that's where the journey began. And then around 2014 or 15, I worked for a few years with a dance photography company, and I was traveling around the United States photographing kids dancing, which was so beautiful. And I think that also gave me a really different, that helped spark my excitement about dance photography, and thinking like, oh, it makes sense because I'm a dancer, so I know how to direct them. I know what I'm looking at in terms of the shapes, and I'm able to easily give them the corrections that they need to hit what is, what we're going for from a technical standpoint as dancers. So yeah, for a few years that really also excited me, I think, and broadened my confidence and horizons just in terms of, dance photography too. I love that because I was, still simultaneously modeling and doing some other work in front of the camera, and always just hungry to learn and grow.
I was going to ask, were you immediately drawn to photographing dance since it was such a big part of your life and still is, or did you start with interests elsewhere in your photography and then come to realize like, I'm always around this. This is a huge part of my life, and then begin documenting it? What was your biggest interest in photography, maybe starting out, and how has that shifted over the years now?
Great question. Well, I love animals. So actually right at the beginning, like pet portraits and animal photography was what I was most excited about because, yes, deep animal lover. And I think I initially was drawn to people and drawn more to creating images of someone that they love. In any session that I did with anyone for headshots or portraits, that feeling when someone looks at a photograph of themselves and goes, oh my gosh, that's me, and like that, the joy and the confidence that can give to people, especially people that haven't had that chance to look at a picture of themselves and feel, to be able to see themselves in a different light, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So I think the desire to give that gift to people really is what drew me to always, I love photographing people. I love nature and landscapes and just textures and you name it. I'm a little wild. Like, you walk down the street with me, as my closest people know, it's like you're mid-conversation and then I'm down the block.
Yep.
Something on the floor. There's a heart shape somewhere. There's a beautiful light coming through the thing. So yeah, I think at any given moment, it's just my creative sensors go off and I get inspired by very random things often. So now that I've meandered through that question, started with people.
I was going to say, I get in trouble for the exact same thing.
Okay, great.
And I guess this is a follow-up question because this has happened to me. Have you been left by the people you were walking with after you've stopped off to photograph something and then look up afterward and you're like, oh no, where did the people go I was with?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think with the understanding that we all know where we're going, she'll catch up. Just let her do. She's doing her Kylie thing. So yeah, it happens.
I think it's a really beautiful thing about photography, though. It's something that you see, and it I don't know if this is the case for you, but like helps you see the world in a better light, and you notice some of the smaller, more beautiful things in the day to day. So I completely understand that and heading off and everything there. Another question I wanted to ask you as well is, as a decorated dancer, I can't even imagine what the level of training and commitment that you've put into that craft. And I was wondering, is photography, are you bringing that same kind of mentality to your photography, or is it a different approach since it's a different creative process for you?
That's a great question. I think that photography has always made me feel free. It's given me, I think, obviously being such a technically trained dancer, I know that there's equal levels of training and technicalities that one can and should explore in photography. And I think I approached it in the beginning just kind of as a wild card of, well, I don't know the rules. So I think that as I was breaking them all over the place to be able to find what inspired me. So I kind of worked backwards from changing knobs and settings and not fully understanding what I was doing. And that's how, I'd say it was like the reverse process, and kind of still actively knowing that that was happening, but being able to approach a new art form with that freedom was really new for me, because coming from, the most rigid and structured of classical art forms is ballet. I kind of entered photography with a wild spirit.
I love that.
Which I think still to this day translates into my images, because again, I'm playing both sides of the camera, and just my wild spirit is like, okay, I see the vision and I just kind of go for it, and not necessarily fully knowing what I'm doing because the light's changing quickly, and I do what I can immediately, and then I, go and hit my pose. But yeah, a lot of it I think is leaving room for trial and error also, which again, when I'm on my own time, it's different, because when you're in the studio, trial and error, and it's your flaws are being highlighted by your teacher or your coaches, and there's a right and a wrong so clearly. And I think that the space in photography, less about right and wrong and more for your voice, is really freeing, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Okay.
I was going to say, I feel like from what you're saying, it gives you this almost like freedom of expression for you to explore not only what you're creating, but I wonder, does it help you explore more about who you are, not only as like a creative, but as a person too, when you're in that kind of space?
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember writing the bio that I sent to Michael for the exhibition, and my first thought when I went to write it was dance is my first language and photography is my second. And both of those are artistic mediums that require no verbal communication. So I think that I default towards nonverbal communication. And I think that as my photography and comfort and accepting of like myself and my vulnerability in dance has grown, I think that that's something that I've been able to access and express more through photography, because it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, I guess, how terrifying self-portraiture can be for a lot of people, just in general. And again, I think my naivety to that idea is what helped me just kind of like launch myself into it. So like, oh, it's just, I'm used to being in front of the camera in my other artistic work. So it was fun to kind of, now it's just you and me, monochrome. Let's go.
Let's see what comes out of this and see what I find. It's really interesting. I was curious about that because I find a lot of your work is very intimate. So I was wondering what it is like that you're trying to express, and if you're really thinking about it, or if it comes freely and it's something that you're almost trying to let out.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's a great question. That before photography, and especially even before Leica's entered the chat, because that's really when my self-portraiture took a much deeper turn. But dance is a therapy to me. It's meditative, it's therapeutic. So if I'm having a rough day, or I'm full of joy and excitement, and I just have so much energy, and I want to literally feel the emotion in my body, I'll go to the studio and I'll dance and I'll train, and then I'll improvise, and I'll just, I'll feel physically the internal emotions that I usually don't have words for. I'm able to dance that out. And so I think with photography, it became that similar idea. And I was actually talking to a wonderful woman who was there at the opening last night, and she was asking me similar questions. But in my response to her, I realized that the technical side and the hats that I have to wear when I'm doing portraits, like that hyperfixation on what I have to do technically to set up the camera, and then go into the artist on the other side, I think that process is really calming to me, even when it's chaotic. So I think just being able to focus and fixate on, okay, I have this vision, I'm here, I'm alone, and I'm just gonna be fully present in this moment. I think the self-portrait series helps me to be completely present with wherever I am. Oh dear, I just went all over.
No, that was wonderful and beautiful, and actually is like leading me into, I almost wanted to hold this for later, but I think this is just like a perfect segue for it. The girl in the tree image. So we were actually talking about this a little bit earlier, and we were looking at some of your work, and the question I have for you is, when you're doing your self-portrait series, it's just you, and then is there a self-timer that you're doing with that? Okay, so you ran up that tree, hit the pose.
Sure did.
So that's the first question. But then the second question, we have it up here now. What is the time?
There it
Is it
is.
like 10 seconds? Or are you able to extend it out further?
So with the monochrome I was using at that time, I had 12 seconds. That
Okay.
was my max. And this is the very first image in the series. This was taken in 2020. And I have always been a huge lover of nature and especially trees. I used to climb trees when I was a little girl. I would climb to the very top and just sit there for hours to hide from everyone or just to have some alone time or some space and also just be in nature. And so there was this beautiful tree on the property where I was working. And one day I remember sitting and just looking at the tree and I thought, I wonder, this is how most of my wild ideas start with, I wonder if I could. So I had no tripod.
Okay. So,
I had a stool
okay.
and some water bottles and a couple of books. And I was like, let's just try.
Yeah.
I wonder if I could set the camera up, get my framing, my settings without a tripod,
Yeah.
and hit the timer and climb the tree and hit a pose that somehow honors the shape of this exquisite tree. And I don't know, let's just see what happens. So I did it. And yeah, I think I took one or two just tests of the tree in general. And I honestly just balancing the camera and like hitting the shutter without it falling over was challenge number one.
Yeah.
Having the stool not fall over in the middle of the uneven grass was challenge number two. And then, I was able to do it. And I don't really know how, because it was not an easy climb, but I had 12 seconds to balance, hit the shutter, climb the tree, and hopefully be in a pose that, you could feel something. And I didn't plan that pose. I just kind of ran on instinct, literally and figuratively. And that's what happened.
I was going to say, I feel like you're reading my mind because I had so many more questions. So I'm looking at it, but I think you answered all of them because the frame itself looks like it has so much intentionality behind it, where you're almost becoming a part of the tree and focusing on like the shape too. So I was like, how long did you have? Did you have this pose in mind? And how did you execute it in that way? Because it's a beautiful, beautiful image. And you were right. It does not look like an easy tree to climb either. I'm like imagining some like parkour situation where
It was
hop up.
Absolutely. Parkour is the next part of my journey.
Oh, is that
this?
But it's incredible to actually see it. And so now obviously you said that pose was not something it was something that just came naturally to you. It wasn't pre-planned, but did you have almost a vision in your mind of what you were hoping to see beforehand? Or was it more of, I have an idea of what I want and I'm going to allow this expression to come out naturally?
I think it was the latter. And again, looking back at that, I think that was also probably just anatomically the way that the tree was and the way that I climbed it and what I was actually able to safely hold on to as I bent back. And it all just somehow magically worked out. Like I wasn't trying to have my leg be there necessarily, or the fact that you can see my stomach and my torso through those two branches there, or the way that my head reached the other side. I mean, those are all things that I honestly didn't even realize until after the fact. But yeah, it was just a purely, I guess, in flow.
Yeah.
Just being in total creative flow and surrender. And I think that's something that's really important to me, both in dance and photography, that it's an authentic and honest moment and not doing too much or trying too hard. Because even when I'm dancing or I'll be filming an improvisation, I'll usually stop just in the middle if I can sense myself trying too hard and just being inauthentic and doing something that I think I'm supposed to be doing versus just honoring where I actually am in any given moment. So I think that the self-portraits that we chose for this and the ones that I will share on social media or, my selects throughout the years always hold truth for whatever I was experiencing in the moment. So I think that that's where just being in flow, like allowed for that to happen,
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I know you were saying this was the first image in the series.
Yeah.
Did you already have in mind before this photo that you wanted to do a self-portrait series, or was this kind of the catalyst where you thought, I think that there's something here that I can kind of build upon and create more with?
Yes, no, it was definitely that. The self-portrait series is definitely a visual diary. And I started it not at all with the intention of, I'm starting this self-portrait series now. It was more a tool and a practice to self-soothe and find my way back home within my vessel. And just, I was going through a really intense time internally, I think, just connecting with purpose and body image and body dysmorphia. And, at a time in 2020 when I wasn't dancing as much as I was used to and focusing on other work. So the self-portrait series really just helped me connect with myself. And I think that, again, the courage and the strength, even when I didn't want to face the truth figuratively and literally with the camera, it's like it was a gentle and safe way for me to reconnect from the inside out and also create in the process. And so I think being able to document where I was any given day, not just physically, but also mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because that's what's interesting to me, and also really intense sometimes, is I can look at every single session I've ever done, every single image, and I have a wild memory in that sense that I can remember what was going on, what drove me to this moment. Was it the need to address emotions I was feeling? Was it literally because I was so inspired by the light that I just couldn't not explore? And I think that I'm digressing a little bit, but I think the self-portrait series allows me to constantly learn more about photography, so that when I'm behind the camera photographing someone else, I'm armed with more information. So aside from the actual creating of the self-portrait series, I feel like every single session is about learning something new. So whether I walk away with an image that I love or not, there's always growth in every session, even if the pictures are beep. Sorry, that too.
No, I love that. That was beautifully said. And was this kind of series something that you just talked about working with other subjects now too? Do you find that it helps you be more empathic and connect more deeply with other people that you're photographing as well, with that sense of connection of knowing what it's like to be in front of the camera?
Absolutely. And I think that reversing that, I think working with the kids for those years in the dance photography already set me up for that. And so now that just continues to evolve. And again, understanding, also having been in many a session myself where I felt very uncomfortable, unsafe, having to be guarded, but also having to be professional. So I think my own experiences, both positive and negative, have led me to want to always be hyper aware of someone's comfort level. And just, it takes a very certain type of person to not only realize that and be sensitive to that, but also care about it and, provide you with a safe space, because to me, that's when the true magic of images come through,
Exactly. You keep reading my mind. I was just going to say magic. It's freaking me out.
It's the denim.
It's the denim. We pre-planned this. It worked out greatly. I had to leave my 80s jacket at home. It's too cold here in New York. I'm sorry. But this felt like a very good segue again. Let me just find where my point was. I pulled a quote that you said.
Oh, no.
It's a good quote. Don't worry about it. You once said, referring to dance, you're telling a story from the inside out. What is the feeling that you have when photographing, whether it's connecting with yourself or connecting with other people? Is there a certain feeling that you have when you're photographing with that?
That's a great question. Honestly, to me, it's the same. I think that I'm still dancing while I'm photographing. So even though the camera is only capturing one moment, I'm still going through the whole range of motion, like within any given pose or a moment. And I think most dancers approach images like this also, like when we're just posing in general. But for me, it absolutely has to have intention. I'm telling myself, I'm feeling something deeply internally and hope that translates. But I view and practice photography in the same way that I do dance. So again, even though it's a still moment, there's still motion in the whole process. And I think, when we look at life, it's just a series of still moments that when you put them all together, that's what brings motion. So that's kind of my philosophy, I suppose, to especially the dance photography. You want, even in this is another, here I go.
Go ahead.
My teacher always would tell us that, even in stillness, there's still energy. So even though you're standing still or you're holding your arm here, your stillness should almost be able to speak louder than your motion. So I think that is really important. I think that's kind of a lost art in some ways in dance, just really understanding the power of the moments in between and those points of, just like letting it all sink in. But those moments of stillness within choreography are some of the most powerful to me and always have been. So being able to hold a pose, she would always say, you should be able to stand on stage with your back to the audience and not do a damn thing. And that you should be able to hold their attention and make them feel something just by standing there. So I think that principle is something that I think about when I'm doing photography too. Wow, that was a lot.
No, that was great. I think that's a really beautiful connection between the two art forms, because I feel like a photo should be able to explain a moment to somebody without having to use words. So I think that was a beautiful point.
Thank you. Also, you can see why I steer away from words, because then I just go on and on and on.
But you do it eloquently. So this is, again, another great segue, but I wanted to also ask you just what role has mentorship played in your artistry as a whole, whether it's dance, photography, or both?
I mean, it's everything. I think that in the spirit of legacy and doing foot to foot and collaborating with Leica Camera USA for the Q343 launch, just the idea of legacy and all of the incredible artists and humans and teachers and mentors that have laid the groundwork for all of us in whatever artistic medium it is that we're pursuing. I think that is of the utmost importance, and it's played such a huge role in my life. My ballet teacher was everything to me. She still is, even though she's passed away. But I think that, just carrying the weight and the light of that history. Again, for me, it's both in dance, in photography, and filmmaking, but definitely it's so important. And I hope that the younger generation gets excited about learning about history, and just because those are the building blocks that are why we're here. So
I was going to say a pillar of knowing where you've come from to know where you've gone, and
absolutely
just to build upon that too. Do you find that there's a connection between dance and photography as a craft? And if so, how does it influence your work? I know we just talked about that stillness point where you can convey something so powerful through stillness in both crafts, but how do you see a connection point between your dance and photography, if any?
That's another great one. It's funny because in dance, especially in ballet, we're going for these really specific technical moments and images, and in almost every move, like with whether you're doing a beautiful high arabesque or a développé or whatever it is, when you're being coached, the teacher will often say, picture. So you're always trying to get to that picture. And people say, if there was a photographer in the house, what kind of picture would you want him to get. So you're always going for that peak pinnacle moment of any given move. So I think that already from a young age, like we're trained as dancers to know where your audience is, like where are they viewing you from on the stage, and always being aware of that in your presentation of movement. So I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. And obviously now in dance competitions or images from shows or rehearsals, it's to be able to have photographs to remember, I think can often be more powerful than video, because dance doesn't translate as powerfully in video, especially, I think. Well, depending on how it's shot. But from what I'm referencing, I think having those powerful moments of stillness and almost achievement in dance, it's like being able to capture that through photography is something I've always been excited about and also horrified by, because when a photographer captures a bad picture of you or the timing is incorrect, which goes into a whole other topic. But I think photography can be, I was thinking about this the other day, it can either beautifully illuminate your technique or very unflatteringly highlight it, if you will, or just show all of the areas that you have for improvement, so it can also be used as a tool to see, okay, my foot could have been a little more turned out, my knee could have been a little bit straighter, because oftentimes what we feel is not what translates. That's why there's so many mirrors and whatnot in dance studios. I don't know where I'm going with this, but
keep going.
Okay. But this brings me to another point just about dance photography in general. I think ballet technique is so specific. And I think that a lot of photographers who are interested in photographing dance kind of realize this and also don't fully know, because how would you know unless you were a dancer or really understand like the classical syllabus and proper technique. So I think another element of why I was excited to be able to have the power to photograph myself is from doing enough sessions that didn't go so well, of a timing not being synced with the photographer. And like, you do this huge jump that you've been training your whole life to do. And if the photographer is 0.04 seconds off, he'll catch you on the way down. And it's like, it's not an accurate representation of your strength and your power. So I think a lot of my excitement about dance photography is to be able to learn and share more just with anyone interested in movement photography, just to understand and have an awareness that it could be a beautiful photograph from as a photographer, what you see, but honoring the fact that there's ballet technique that you also have to honor as well. There's two technical sides that you also have to honor in dance photography. Wow. I don't know where we started, but that's where we ended.
I like where we went. Do you think that there's a series in there with that as well, where you're in a truly unique position where you understand ballet and the techniques that are needed? Do you ever want to go maybe with the classical dancers and use your photography to help highlight those techniques and everything there, and also potentially even be able to help them adjust things if you're able to capture it at those right moments?
Absolutely. That's something, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm very passionate and excited about the possibilities of that, and working with more dancers and photographers just to give everyone more knowledge and information. Because I think from a dance perspective, if you understand the photographer's framing, if you know that he's shooting down or if he's up from above, what's his focal length, where is he cropped into, just having a technical understanding of all of those things can help you literally position your leg and your chin and your arms and your head in a way that is going to give you pictures that you're excited about, because again, I think also understanding that everyone has different tastes and different things that they love or don't love. So I think just being able to give people a better foundation, I think, to communicate with one another, both dancers and photographers, I think is something I'm really passionate about exploring and figuring out how I can help work with both sides of the community to just, for everyone to have more knowledge, set them up for success.
I love that. It sounds like there's a class in there.
100%.
Very, very interesting.
Leica?
We'll talk. I guess on the same line of this, but for any of our audience members who may be interested in photographing dance or breaking into the scene or understanding how it is that they can get better at it, do you have any advice for them on what they should do or any references for where they should go?
That's a great question. I think my first thought is just start and trial by error. I think the more we practice anything, the stronger we get. I would say in terms of dance photography specifically, having an understanding of the lines and technique and extension that dancers are going for, just having a little bit of a more general idea of the classical technique will be really, really helpful for any photographers excited about getting into dance. And I would say, again, I think working or collaborating with people that are open to like, hey, I'm really interested. I know nothing, but I want to start somewhere. And just, again, finding people that are wanting to learn and grow with you. But I would say just being open and also leaving ego out of it, which is also, a challenge often. I think going into any session with a collaborative spirit is what, again, will yield the best outcome. So I think just leaving ego at the door and being excited to learn and grow and understanding that, especially in dance photography, you could spend 45 minutes doing the same pose and the dancer is still maybe not happy, because dancers are never satisfied. Because we can always do better. We can always get more extension, more height, more of a pointed foot or whatnot. So, understanding the nature of the beast in that dance promotes unattainable perfection. And that's what we're always going for. So I think that finding peace in the constant quest for that, whether you're dancing, photographing, or doing both. There's some self-portrait sessions that I've done where I've done a pose over and over, and then my body's literally physically giving out and I can't do it anymore. But I'm like, I want to keep going. So I think finding those points of surrender of, you know what? I showed up this day. I gave it all that I had, and I walked away learning something, even if my original intention wasn't successful. Again, always just thinking about growth and learning, I think, is important. So for anyone interested in dance photography, I would start by trying to inform yourself of technique and understanding if that's what you're actually going for. And then also just experimenting and exploring and giving yourself permission to be wild in your explorations. Oh dear, did that make sense?
It does make sense. The answers have been fantastic. And then just turning back to you a little bit and kind of that finding that wild, expressive side of yourself. When you're not able to find that as much, where do you go and turn for inspiration?
I go to the bathtub with Epsom salt.
Nice.
I go to the sauna or the steam room. I think I'm a big water baby, which a bunch of the images in the exhibition were in rainstorms. But I think for me, water has always been extremely cleansing, both physically and literally, but just helping to reset my energy and quiet my inner voice and just kind of resetting. I think finding those moments of water comfort really just kind of helped me reset and start again and come out with fresh energy and perspective on whatever it is that I'm working through.
I love that.
I'm a mermaid.
I like that. I was going to say, in another life.
And this one.
And this one. Because I feel like everyone has somewhere where they go where I guess their inner voice can kind of come back to them and tell them, or reset, like you were saying.
Yeah.
So in dance, there's this human to human connection, whether it's working with your teacher or your peers. Do you find that there's also a human to human connection through photography? Is that something that you're exploring while you're doing your photography as well?
Absolutely. I think, again, both whether you're doing self-portraits, it's a connection to yourself for whatever it is that you're ready to open yourself to. Again, I think it can be really illuminating, both in a challenging and a beautiful way if you're open to it. And then obviously working with people. I love within a session just watching people open, and you can usually find a moment where there's that change. And sometimes it's actually just within the session, something that they find within themselves. Sometimes it's within a conversation. Sometimes it's that moment where you show them some of the images and they go, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm so excited. And then, it's just like that release. But I definitely think that photography is such a beautiful tool to connect with other people and with yourself in so many different ways.
I love that. And then, was there an image either of yours or that you've seen that had an impact on you that kind of helped either reinforce or further develop your photography, that had this kind of like, oh my God moment for yourself?
Well, I've always been a very, very big fan of Ansel Adams. He's one of my heroes. And I think that for many, many years, his work has always really spoken to me. I think, obviously also Henry's work is ridiculously incredible. Deanna's work is so beautiful. I think there's so much and so many within this exhibition. Both of their work is so powerful, and I think that I am inspired by so many different things and so many different people. I couldn't really narrow it down to one, but yeah, I again, the truth that I feel in the images, I think, is what impacts me the most. And so I just love getting to see other people's truths, because I think that what they photograph and how they photograph it is also so illuminating about who's behind the camera, if that makes sense.
It does. It's almost like a little piece of that person that they're choosing to share with you.
Absolutely.
Do you find that to be the same with your photography when you are able to share it with the world?
Yes, I think that's where this opportunity was both exciting and a little terrifying, because again, it's sharing these pieces of myself and parts of myself that I didn't necessarily always intend to be sharing. Again, they were captured in these really intense moments, and I'm hoping that the work that I've shared and the idea of self-portraiture is something that by sharing my work will inspire other people to explore it themselves, because I think it's just such a beautiful tool for healing and self-expression, whenever you're ready for it.
Beautiful. I think we are starting to get close to time here, but I have one question that I always like to ask people to kind of wrap up.
Oh no, the hard question. Okay, here we go.
Hopefully it's not, but I hope it makes you think a little bit. But if you could speak with your younger self and you could say anything to them at any age, what would you say to her?
Save your tears for the stage. And I'm lucky because that's what my teacher told me at 8 years old. So I think I would say that same thing to younger generations or other people. That's kind of been my mantra, again, since I was 8 years old. And to me, it's about not literally physically saving your tears, but about taking all of your joy and pain and all of the full spectrum of the emotions in the human experience and channeling them and alchemizing them into art and artistic expression and using your creative voice. So yeah, save your tears for the stage.
It's a perfect way to end, I think. Kylie, thank you so much for joining us today. We
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much,
it.
Jack.
It was such a pleasure to get to talk to you and get
Likewise.
to peek a little bit behind who you are and the person behind the lens. And congratulations again on the exhibition.
Thank you.
It was beautiful. I can't wait to see what you continue to create.
Thank you so much. Likewise. We'll have to do this again.
I'd love to after dark.
Okay.